Okay, day 3. You should be on page 9 in your packet. We're going to start to talk about a new concept today for right triangles. And this is the concept that we use when we cannot use the Pythagorean theorem. So when we look at these problems, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 problems. We want to try to look at the ones that we can solve with a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So for this first one, we can do that. I'm just going to set it up. Now for the second one, I don't think that we can solve this with Pythagorean theorem because we don't have another side. We have a 17 squared plus I don't know what equals x squared. That doesn't really work for Pythagorean theorem. We've got to have two sides, two numbers in order to do that. And we only have one. Same thing here. We only have one side. We have an angle, we have 36 degrees, and we have 50 degrees, but that's not what we need. We need side lengths. Same thing here. We only have one side. We have x, and then we have nothing. So that's a concern. Now, if you look at these two, here we have two sides. We have, let me get my marker back. We have x squared plus 15 squared equals 21 squared. That one works. And here we'll have x squared equals 6 squared plus 8 squared. So that one works. But you can see that there are some right triangle problems where we're solving for a missing side. I'm going to write that over here. Missing side, where we can't use Pythagorean theorem. So when do you use Pythagorean theorem? Well, you use it when you're looking for a missing side of a right triangle. And you need two sides. Like two actual numbers. So when will we need to use something else? Well, that's usually, let me write that a little neater, sorry about that. That's usually when we have a missing side of a right triangle, but we don't have two sides anymore. What we have is one side and one angle. And that's where we have to use something else. So sometimes the Pythagorean theorem is not the right tool. This is on page 10. We have another tool called trigonometry. Kind of a big word. A lot of people will just say trig for short. Trigonometry means dealing with triangles and their measures and sizes. Trigon means dealing with triangles. Metry means measures or sizes. So when you put the two together, we're talking about triangles and their measures or their sizes. We're also going to need these two vocabulary words. And we used these vocabulary words before. Well, this one we did. We used opposite. Here we're going to use a new one called adjacent, which means next to something. Down below, it says the first skill we need to learn is to learn to label the sides correctly. Well, we already know how to label the hypotenuse. And I'm going to label that with an H. It is always opposite from the 90-degree angle. And so after doing Pythagorean theorem for a couple of days, we should know where that hypotenuse is. But remember, I said when we use trigonometry, that's when we have one side and one angle. Well, that angle is very important. We're going to label the angle, and we're going to use a Greek letter, theta. And it looks like a circle with a line through the middle. So we're going to put our theta here. It won't always be there. But for right now, we're going to put it there. And now we're going to label our opposite side. So what is opposite from theta? We're going to use an O for that. And what is next to theta? See, here's theta. That's next to theta. And remember, next to means adjacent. Or A. So that's the object of today's lesson, is how to label the triangles correctly. If you turn to page 11, we're going to recap. We have hypotenuse, we have opposite, and we have adjacent. So let's practice a couple more. So let's do H first. That's easy. Now O is going to go from theta to the opposite side, and adjacent will be next to theta. Now, if you notice, theta will always have an adjacent side on one side and a hypotenuse on the other. See that? And if I highlight theta as an angle in yellow, you can see that one of its sides is A and one of its sides is H. Let's try another one. Here we have the hypotenuse. Then we go to theta and we go opposite. And then next to theta, that's where the A goes, next to. And notice again, there's theta, that's an angle. It's in yellow. And it has an A on one side and an H on the other side. And that's always going to be the way, no matter how we draw the triangle. Last one, H. Now we go to theta and we go opposite. And then next to theta, adjacent. And again, I'm going to highlight that angle. And you can see that on one side, I have A, and on the other side, I have H. We're going to need this as we go forward with learning about trigonometry.